Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today I'm joined by our special guest, Linda Benz. We have a great conversation in store for you. We're going to be talking about how to break free with energy first when you're stuck, no matter your effort. So I'm going to tell you something about Linda. She is an accomplished energy coach, speaker, and author. As an introverted, highly sensitive, and empathic person, she understands how difficult it can be to thrive in a world that sees you as being very different. Women entrepreneurs and professionals hire Linda to transform their energy both professionally and personally because most are sabotaging themselves and know there are things looking and holding them back they can identify or they can't identify. So Linda helps them cut through the inner confusion, align their energy to achieve the freedom and quality of life they want and deserve. Bottom line, Linda takes women from stuck to unstoppable. Welcome, Linda. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's just a pleasure to be here. I always love talking with you.
I do as well. And I just want to make sure that everyone who's joining us, if you are for the very first time, hey, don't miss a single episode by subscribing to Claim Your Career Crown wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what you're doing and you love these episodes, please take that extra moment to give us a 5-star review. We would very much appreciate it. Okay, so Linda, I am really fascinated and would love to hear what inspired you to get started in this career.
Well, I've been doing this for 25 years now. So going back to the very beginning when I knew nothing, what actually inspired me on this journey in the beginning sounds crazy, but it was my dog. Now, my dog was ill. He had a heart condition
Oh,
and I'd been taking him to the vet and everything. And he'd reached the point really where there was nothing more they could do for him. And I happened to see a program on TV. It was a documentary about homeopathic medicine or
yeah.
remedies, and it was about a medical doctor who was so tired of people coming into his office talking to him about homeopathy, he was determined to prove that there was nothing to it, that it was nonsense. Anyway, he went on this journey of exploration. And cut a long story short, he ended up training as a homeopath himself because he saw the value in it. And on the program, they had a homeopathic vet that they worked with. So I was so impressed by this. I went to find a homeopathic vet and I found one. And I was just so impressed by, he just understood the whole journey that had happened with my dog. He said, this would have started, they'd have given him this medicine, and then this would have happened as a result of that, and then that would have happened. I thought, wow, he didn't even read the medical history or anything, he just knew all this. Anyway, so he prescribed something that helped him in his final days. He'd progressed so far that he wasn't going to come back from that, but it really helped him in his final days. But that was the spark, and it inspired me to start learning about natural health. And then I was so passionate about it. I was just really learning from my own information, but I was so passionate about it. I just was thinking, I have to do this. I can help people with this. I need to share this information. And then I decided I was going to start a business doing it. And at the same time, I started being introduced to this concept of energy in your environment through something they call feng shui. It just again made total sense to me. So I trained as a feng shui practitioner. And so I started my business doing holistic health consultations and feng shui consultations as well. So it was energy of the body and then energy of the environment as well. And then over the years, as I've moved a couple of times, my business has kind of transitioned, and I realized it's not about the tool, it's not about the holistic health and the herbal remedies and the supplements, and it's not about where do I hang the wing chime to fix my life or how should I put my sofa. Those things come into it, but it's not about the tools, it's about energy. Everything is about energy. So my business really evolved into me becoming an energy coach.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. So I love to hear more about this process and how you work with people and what you do so that our listeners can really sort of absorb this approach, because, I definitely see how, that connection and with the energy in yourself and in your environment is impacting us every minute of every day.
Well, it really is, and yet it's not something we think about. I mean, something goes wrong, you don't immediately think, what's the energy of this? How can I change the energy? Of course you don't. But so when I start working with somebody and they're coming to me with an issue, and it could be I'm struggling in my business, it could be I'm not getting promoted in my career, it could be I don't know, a relationship or health issues or whatever it is that they're struggling with. So that as they're telling me, I'm listening for what's behind it. I'm looking for the energy behind it. So if they're telling me, okay, I'm working in this job and my boss is being really mean to me and I don't know what to do about it, instead of focusing on him and saying, oh, well, that's really unfair, let's talk about what you can do to handle him, I'm looking at, okay, what is it about you that's attracting this kind of behavior? So that's what I'm looking for. That's the questions that I ask people are designed to bring that out. And then I can see, oh, this person feels unworthy. This person feels that they're not good enough. And so there's a pattern going on here, that they are attracting situations and people into their life that are showing them, look, you're not good enough. I'm going to ignore you, or I'm going to treat you badly, or I'm going to be a bully to you. And so when we look at that, then we've got something to work with. We can say, okay, let's look at this belief of I'm not good enough, and how is that showing up, and how can we change it? And when you start to change that, then everything around you changes. The situations change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was actually in a situation that was like that, where I was being bullied at work early in my career. And I honestly had no idea how to get around it. I mean, basically, I was just trying to avoid that person,
Yes.
and avoidance is not an answer, and
No.
you have to find that way to stand in your own power and your own strength, so that, you can respond in a better, more I don't want to say necessarily, you're not going to be a bully back, and you're not going to be aggressive back, but assert your own space and your own, where you are and who you are, and that behavior is not okay.
Exactly. And it's so much more empowering. It takes you out of that victim thinking of this person is doing this to me, or this situation is happening to me. And you look at yourself and you ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? What is it I need to learn here? What is it I can change? And then when you change that about yourself, I mean, it really, sometimes it seems miraculous that how things change. I'll just share a quick story of when I first started my business years ago. I was very insecure. I had no self-confidence, no self-worth whatsoever. And so I did tend to attract people who could be mean and bullies. And there was this one woman who sort of attached herself to me. I met her at a networking event, and then I don't know, it was like I couldn't get rid of her. She was very smart. She was very accomplished, very good businesswoman, but she was mean. And she was very aggressive to other people. And when she talked to me or talked to somebody else, I would cringe inside because it was just so nasty. And this actually went on for a few years. And I like you said, I tried to avoid her, but I really couldn't very easily. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who was a therapist, and I said, okay, I understand this concept that there are people in our lives, when somebody is difficult in your life, they are reflecting back to you something about yourself. So it's yourself that you need to focus on rather than the person. And I said, I cannot for the life of me understand or really grasp what it is she's showing me about myself. I said, because I would never treat anybody that way. I just couldn't do it. And she said to me, no, you wouldn't treat anyone else that way. She said, but you are very mean to yourself. I thought, oh, that's it, and I got it right away. And so I didn't try to change anything about this person or our relationship, but I started focusing on myself and being aware of how I was treating myself. I decided to be kinder to myself and just treat myself better, not be mean to myself. And then I don't know, after a couple of weeks of that, this person just announced she was moving away. and I didn't have to do anything, and that's not an isolated incident. I've had things happen like this happen to me and to people I've worked with. So it's wonderful. It's so empowering because you realize I can control this by changing myself, changing how I respond, as you said, rather than reacting to the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have someone like you. I had to sort of figure it
No.
out on my own, right? And I
Mm,
finally, the same thing, and that was really holding me back. And I finally realized this because I was this people pleaser and I wanted people to like me.
mm,
And
me too.
I went, okay, not everybody's gonna like me. That's
Mm,
okay.
mm,
But I had to find this gumption that I do have, so that I could just say, hey, this is not okay. That you just
right,
slammed all this bunch of files, just literally slammed them on my desk. It is not okay,
right,
you know. And
right.
and it was also like sometimes it's like I'm curious. Are you aware of how other people perceive this behavior?
Mm,
You know, the people around who are seeing this.
mm,
Because, and is that how you want people to think about you?
mm,
And for some people that's okay.
mm.
But it was that I had to figure that out. I
Yeah,
didn't have any help. I don't know, but I did. I think it was because I have that inner gumption that really helped me
yeah,
through that. But I mean that's so important because sometimes we just you can't see that. And then it was as I went through in my life, it was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. This you know, is this how you want to be perceived? I mean, I want to be able to work effectively together, but this is what I'm feeling. And,
mm,
and just, like we have to have a conversation about this. This is the elephant in the room. We
yeah,
have to talk about it.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing that can hold a lot of people back. And maybe I'm projecting, but that literally, the doormat, or they don't want to speak up, they don't want to speak out. And they're going to use that, what I originally used, that avoidance strategy, which is
yeah.
no strategy at all.
Well, it comes down to, what are you willing to tolerate? And it turns out that we can actually tolerate a lot. Unknowingly, perhaps maybe we're not aware that we're tolerating it, but every difficult person or every difficult situation in your life can teach you something about yourself. Whether it's that, I had to learn how to say no to people like that. And I was terrified. First time I had to say no to this woman, I had to talk it through with my friend like many, many times. And then she had asked me to do this thing and I didn't want to do it. And so in the end, I just said to her very politely, I said, no, that doesn't work for me. And I was terrified of how she was going to respond. She just said, okay. And I thought, oh, it was that easy. I just had to learn how to say no. Something doesn't work for me. And it was just like a revelation to me, because I was, as you were, a former people pleaser. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that power of learning how to say no with grace,
Mm.
is so important. And I think this um, idea of the introspection, is so critical. So let's talk a little bit more about the energy, and how not being aware of that holds people back.
Yeah, because there are things we don't think about. So we've talked about how people are showing up around you. If they're treating you badly, then you can look at that and say, okay, what is it about me that's attracting this? But it's the same with situations. So you can, if you're finding something that continues to repeat in your life or in your business, you can start to look at, okay, what's going on here? What could possibly be behind this? Let me share a business example because this might help to solidify it for people. So I was working with this guy who came to me, and he's an internet marketer, and he was working from home. He'd started his business. Very, very smart guy. He knew exactly what to do, knew who he needed to work with. And he came to me and he said, it's really frustrating me because I find these great people to work with. They're top names and they're, got great reputations, and they come and they start to work with me. and then they just kind of go all flaky, and I don't hear from them again, or something happens, and they just leave me high and dry, and I don't understand what's happening. So I started asking him questions. I also asked him, because I look at the environment, asked him to send me pictures of his office and different areas in his home. And I found out his office, he was crammed into this space in the basement, so that there was all things around him, there was kid stuff around him and all these things, and he was tucked in this little corner. And I said, okay, so here you are, you wanting to create this kind of big business, you have this big business idea, and it's like you're not taking yourself seriously, you're cramming yourself into a corner. So to me, energetically, that says you're keeping yourself small. So that was the first thing. I wanted him to change his, if he could, to change his office setup. Go create your own space if you can, and make it like a serious business. Imagine if someone was coming to your office to talk to you. Would you want to introduce them into this, little corner, or would you want a nice office? So that was one. The other thing I found in his home was they had a basement. And since they'd moved in, now they'd lived here several years, but since they'd moved in, they had not done anything with the basement. There were boxes of things they'd never looked at. It was jam-packed full. And I said, I really think, energetically speaking, this is keeping you stuck. When you have that amount of stuff, it represents stuck energy. So I said, if you can, do something about that, I think that would really help you. So they started dedicating, him and his wife started dedicating their weekends to clearing out this stuff, sorting through it, clearing it out. His business immediately started to shift. He did these two things. He moved his office and he started clearing out stuff. Immediately started to shift. He's all excited. Things are happening. Things are going really well. Then after a few weeks, he said to me, well, it was going really, really well, and now things seem to have stalled again, and I don't know what it is. And so we were talking, and I said, well, you've been cleaning out the basement. How's that going? And he said, well, we stopped. We did a certain amount, and now we got busy, so we stopped. I said, don't stop. Just keep going, because that, I think, is the key, because as you started clearing things out, things started moving. So let's keep that going. So back he went to the basement, started clearing things out again, and that really shifted things for him. So it's things like that you would never ever think of necessarily, but energetically speaking, it's all important and it's all impacting you. So when you see patterns that are going on, instead of focusing on the pattern itself of this keeps happening, look at you, look at your environment, look at what's going on with me that could be contributing to this. Change that and the situation will change.
Well, that is brilliant. That's brilliant. And it actually segues right into what could our and should our listeners do next if they have these types of, what's a trick or a tip on, really getting in tune with their energy, not only in their environment and the situations in themselves.
I think one of the best things, well, one is you have to dedicate yourself to self-awareness, really paying attention to what's going on with you, how you feel when something shifts, just really starting to pay attention to that. But one of the most powerful things you can learn to do is when something happens that you don't like, whether it's a person that's upsetting you or it's a situation that crops up in your life that's creating a struggle, you learn to ask yourself, what is it that I need to learn from this person or this situation so that I can move on? Just ask yourself that question, and you sit with that question, and you'll be surprised how the answer will just come to you, or the situation will resolve. But the fact that you're willing to take responsibility, to empower yourself, to know that to know about your connection to what's happening. It's not about the person, it's not about the situation. Turn it around to you. What is it I need to learn so that I can move on? That is life changing right there.
Yeah, no, it is. I really appreciate that piece of advice. I'm just get all tingly because one of the things that I do is that when I am feeling stuck or I'm in a quandary, I'm trying to think about something, I will take myself out of the office. I'll either walk on my residential street, right? And I just like, I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to look at what's around, what are the plants that are coming up, and sort of put that, And what I find is I also have a park that I'm really fortunate is
Mm.
really close, and it's like got a really nice 20-minute sort of loop with where you're walking through a trail and all this. And at any time of year, when I start really focusing on that and that energy and that, life energy, the answers come to me, or I come back so much more refreshed and energized,
Yeah,
that then it helps me sort that out, because I'm going like, I'm just going to let it sort of sit and
yeah,
percolate while I'm doing these other things. And I find that can really break that down. And it's so surprising, because people are like, I don't even have the 5 or 10 minutes. But when you take that time for yourself, 5 minute break of walking out of your apartment, out of your office, going to get a coffee, whatever it is, wherever you are, walking around my residential cul-de-sac, it can be really refreshing. I mean, it really resets your energy.
it does. Well, you're disconnecting from the issue. You disconnect from it, and then you go and you put yourself energetically in a space that's nourishing and feeding you. That's another great way of doing it. So essentially, you're doing the same thing. You're disconnecting, you're taking care of yourself, and in allowing yourself to do that, then the solutions can come, the clarity can come, and situations can resolve. It's a beautiful thing. You've got to change up the energy. So you're not trying to force the
Yeah,
situation to change. You're removing yourself from it. You kind of allow things to settle, and that allows you to be in a different energy space. And
yeah,
that's when solutions can come.
yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Linda, for sharing how to break free with energy first when you're stuck, no matter your effort. And
Mm.
I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about where they can find you and find out more about you.
Well, the best place to go is my website, which is lindabins.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those. But if you go on lindabins.com, if you want to find out more about energy, you'll see on there's a link to a free masterclass, practical energy masterclass, where I talk about all these different aspects of energy, how they impact us, and how important it is to be aware of them. So that's a really good place to start. So just go to lindabins.com and you'll find what you need.
All right, that is brilliant. That's brilliant. And I want to thank you again, Linda. And everyone who tuned in. This has been a really energizing and powerful conversation. I want to point out that if you have ideas that you'd like to share, please, we've got that comment section right down below on whatever platform you're listening. We love hearing your thoughts. And if you have a question or would like to suggest a topic for discussion, you can email us at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com. And of course, to stay current on all of our insightful advice, our breakthrough advantages, incredible episodes like the one today with Linda, you can sign up for our weekly wisdoms newsletter at petitetoqueen.com, and you won't miss a single thing. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in and who's listened. And Linda, thank you so much. This has been such a tremendous episode.
Thank you, Lynn. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.